meant to be here 11 minutes ago, and I was all on time. I got the clothes on the line. I was like, whoo, coming in for a landing, pop the baby in for the nap. I step out onto my porch, and this black pickup truck pulls up in front of the house, and they like wave at me, and I'm like, hello, do I know you? So I walk over my bare feet, and it's just this like nice three people, a brother and a sister. They're probably my parents' age, and their friend in the back. They're over from Quebec, driving around as people do in small towns where I live. And they just wanted to ask me about someone's sign, like this stop the tower cell phone tower thing. So I'm talking to them and chatting to them, and like small town people do, we just started talking. And then they were like, oh, how long have you lived here? We're chatting. In the back of my mind, I'm like, oh, I have to be here somewhere right now. But I figured you could all wait. And I mean, I've made up the time to meet at 1:30 Eastern Standard Time in this group. So I chose to just spend 10 minutes, not worry about it, chatting with people. And of course, like you've all experienced as a big family mom, or you will, they end up saying, oh, how many children do you have? And I just had this split second. I'm like, do I answer honestly? Because it always leads to this series of questions that, I'm patient with it. It's fine. Most people are fine with it. But I knew as soon as I dropped the number 11, it would lead. And it did. They were like, wah, wah, wah. And then, all yours? Same dad? How old? Yeah, so we went through it real quick. And whatever. I just answered the question. It was fine. Just a sec. My throat's all dry from chatting to them. Well, today, though, I had on my heart to share with you a fuller answer to a question that was brought up in the group over the weekend by a lovely leader in my group. Since this is going out on YouTube and other platforms, I'll keep the name private, but you know who you are, and I will tag you in the group, specifically in my Big Family Moms private Facebook group after, because it was such a good question about being a big family mom living in the country versus living in town. Because amongst big family moms, we have different lifestyles. We have a lot of things that tend to be in common that we can relate to, like the questions that I just answered. We can relate to that when people sometimes spend time in total strangers, and how to deal with that graciously, especially if you don't have time or you don't really feel like getting into it. Those things we can often have in common, and give each other solidarity and suggestions and advice on how to do that. However, when it comes to living in town versus living in country, there can be some major lifestyle differences just because of location. So I have never actually lived in the country. I've always had a dream to live in the country, and that time may yet come. My husband and I do spend time talking about, what is on our heart to do, what do we feel the Lord is calling us to do, where we would live, and all of what that would mean in the time that we can reasonably plan to still have, good health and so on. I would turn 44 next month. So we're thinking like, what is the next 2-year plan, 5-year plan, 10-year plan? What's on our hearts? What are the dreams? What are the goals, so that we can begin to work towards them? That being said, I'm not speaking from country experience. I'm speaking more from in town. I lived in the suburbs before this home. We've been in a small town, which I've never done before. But my husband grew up in a small town, so he was very it was very like nostalgic and charming him to the idea of moving to a small town when we moved here 6 years ago, and have since welcomed Gloria, Nico, 4 more children. And they're all having quiet time right now. That's why it's so quiet. All right, so let's get into it. I have observed, now being a leader in a community of many big family moms where I serve from my heart and my life, sharing how I've overcome struggles, logistic struggles, like the organization, the head stuff, the heart stuff, the house stuff, all those pieces of being a big family mom. I share that in my group. And so I also have a chance to observe and learn a lot from other moms who have slightly different lives than me, who have walked through different experiences that I have, and we can support each other and learn from each other. Well, one of the things I've noticed, though, is that we can tend to, I think this is a human thing, this isn't a big family moms thing, we tend to compare ourselves. And it can be, I call it the trap of comparison. And because you can fall into it, right? You will always find someone who's like doing better than you and someone who's doing worse. So from a big family mom context, there's always going to be someone who has more children or less children, someone who's had more C-section or less, or more VBACs or less, someone who's more income or less income, right? Who's more involved in their church than you are, or less involved in their church, whose children are involved with more extracurriculars or less, or different, right? You got the nerdy families, you got the sporty families, and the artsy families, and just different. As much as we have so much unity, which is beautiful, A, as Christians, and B, as big family moms, and if you homeschooled as well, then there's another thing to have in common that we can glean from and support each other and encourage each other with. However, we have a lot of differences. I joke about it and say, I don't even agree with my husband on everything, you know? We have wonderful diversity. Think of all the fish in the sea, how God didn't make it boring, all the variety of food in the world. It's not a boring world. There's unity and sameness, but there's also beautiful diversity. So if you find yourself, as this lovely woman did in our group, comparing yourself to a very different big family mom, or even an ideal, right? This mythical unicorn big family mom who lives in the country, makes her own clothes, homesteads a small hobby farm, milks the goats, and is literally becoming almost completely off the grid self-sufficient. Oh, and she's, got 5, 6 kids, and they're not really old enough to meaningfully participate in anything other than a couple of chores and just getting their homeschool done. And now she finds herself scared to have more children because that's more work. And how is she going to do it all? And then to top it off, this lovely woman shared that she works part-time in town for a friend who has a town home, maybe something very similar to mine. So a home in town where she does keep it all together and it's neat and tidy all the time. And here's this mom feeling like, I'll never measure up, scared to have more children. How can I do it in the country with the life that I live? How can I keep my home organized and tidy just like this mom in town? Well, see, as a big family mom who does live in town, I find myself comparing myself sometimes to moms who have less children than I do, or who send their children away to away school, whatever away school as opposed to homeschool looks like, whether it's public school, Catholic school, charter school. There's so many schools. There's even more in the States. I can compare myself too. And my kids went to VBS last week, and so I had 5 of them gone, and half of them were in all day. And I had this moment when I'm going to be totally honest. When am I not honest? I'm going to be honest with you. When I thought to myself, what would it be like if they were going away to school in September? Would it be like this all the time? The noise break, the stuff I was able to get done. I enjoyed it. I'm going to be totally honest. And I was happy when I picked my littles up at noon because they still nap, and the bigger ones up at 4 o'clock because when it was over and they came home. They did those 5 days of VBS. They loved it. They had a grand time with our church. And I really appreciated having the break. So when I compare myself, it's not usually to like country, someone who has more work. It's always to someone who seems to have less work to do, right? Because spoiler alert, big family moms, just being a big family mom, it involves work. It does. Bearing children, nursing children, running the home, keeping the home, managing the affairs of the home, if you homeschool. But even if you don't, like you still have to orchestrate all the parts of your children's schooling, right? Whether it's the meals and all the stuff. There's a lot of work involved in being a mom. And it's amplified when you have more children, especially when they're young and they can't really help out meaningfully. So what is my advice if you find yourself caught in the trap of comparison, as I did literally last week? I still do, right? And then people look up to me and they're like, oh, Terry, you have it so together. We're always comparing ourselves to somebody. It's human, right? Adam labeled things from the beginning. We have this God-given desire to categorize, and we do that by comparing and contrasting. That's all good until we begin to like really cut ourselves down and compare ourselves to what I would propose, and I say this with love, unrealistic expectations. If when I was putting my clothes up on the line just before I had my interruption earlier, I was thinking, if I washed all my clothes by hand, either out of choice or out of pure necessity or just living in a different place at a different time, how much time would that take for me to wash clothes for a family of 13? And I live north of 60, so what would that look like in the winter? Would I have the spare time to run a Facebook group? Would that be something I would choose to do? I don't know. I haven't done it, but I just started to think, if I was, aiming to be self-sufficient and produce 80% to 100% of our own food, our own small crops and everything, and get it all stored and washed and canned and everything for the winter. Even if we just had 5 children or 3 children, how much time would that take? If I was aiming to hand sew, even with the help of a sewing machine, all of our winter clothes, right? Winter coats even. If that was a conviction of mine, it's something I would choose to do. However you got there, you got there. How much time would that take? Probably a lot. And I would have to really honestly look at my schedule and decide, where am I going to divide up the time? Because there's only 24 hours in the day. So something that I share in my big family home course, just a second, somebody's having a squabble and I'm going to address it. Judah, would you please give Asher some space? right now. Thank you. Asher, next time just communicate to him and say, hey, please give me some space. Okay? Instead of growling. Can I get a yes? Did you hear me? Asher, just nod. Thank you. Okay, thanks. There was a squabble. It's all good. Okay, what was I saying? Yes, what I teach in my course. So what I teach in my Big Family Home course, which has 3 parts: home organization, getting into routine, and keeping calm as a mom, teaching kids how to do it too. So it's 3 big key parts of big family home life that the principles apply wherever you are. Well, one of them is I actually break down and I provide some sheets that you can print out if that's helpful, to just look at the 24 hours of the 7-day week and start to write in, based on your values and your goals, which I show you how to identify, what are your priorities? Because there's some things that you have to do, that you are called by God, you are convicted about, and they're unique to you. Between you and your husband and God, you've determined what are the absolute have-tos, and then how you're going to do that in the week, how you're going to accomplish that. So we're really convicted to homeschool. That's a time commitment, and I have to sit down for the months of the year that we choose to do it. Well, we do it year round, later in the summer. And I actually write it out. And there's a little bit of flex because I like to have a flexible routine, but I also need to have some clarity so that I can hit my goals in the 24 hours that are portioned out to me, knowing that a good 1/4 of that's going to be spent sleeping, and that's God's good design. And I love my sleep, and I need at least 6 hours to function and be pleasant and okay and healthy, for the long run, let alone the next day. So I portion it and look at my hours. So my advice would be to dear woman in the group who has a specific situation, you could just sit down with your own piece of paper and actually write out the 24 hours. You could just do some lines or whatever. If you want to grab my course, it's linked below. You feel free. Write out what your week looks like right now. And so you can just see it and see where your spaces are. Do you have any white gaps, or is it just back to back to back to back to back? And if you're thinking, oh, I got to keep my house clean on top of this, well, maybe you don't. Maybe you can adjust what is a level of acceptable to you. And if you're comparing it to your friend in town, or, if you watching this now, comparing it to someone else, or even, like I said, the mythical unicorn mom who has it all together and is always doing it better than you and maybe looking down on you at the same time, so you can set yourself free from that trap of comparison, but it's actually a choice. It's like an unlocked door that you were just keeping yourself in that room. You can just walk right out and be like, no, I'm going to compare myself against, myself yesterday. That's actually a good comparison. It's just, if you aim to improve, and compare yourself to who you were yesterday and what you were, aiming to do yesterday. So you can just improve incrementally. But if you're always comparing yourself to another big family mom who maybe has a completely different lifestyle than you. Maybe she does send her children to school, or maybe she has less children, or maybe she's in a different health situation because she has different goals and priorities in the same big family mom context, but you're 2 totally different people. And that's okay. I love the diversity in the body of Christ. And I love that diversity that we see reflected within the big family moms. It's not even a community, but, just big family moms as we have found ourselves here on the World Wide Web. So when it comes to taking advice from other big family moms, I would suggest, if you really want to get some advice from a big family mom who's a homesteader, then you could ask me, hey, where's the big family homesteading moms? Because they probably would have some very specific wisdom, because they know how to do it. Maybe they can give some really good advice on how to do the big family homestead thing, especially if you're homeschooling and you have some very unique things. I have no compulsion personally to make winter clothes. I'm okay, purchasing them, and I think we're going on our 4th year for the one we got for my daughter, and hand-me-downs and all that good stuff. So I don't necessarily have specific advice on how to do that, but I do know how to organize my life no matter what season I'm in, where I'm living. And the principle I've been using for years, I share all of that in my course. So like I said, if that's helpful to you, it's available below. If you want to connect with another big family mom or moms who are very micro similar to you, right? They have a couple check boxes underneath the big family mom mantle, because you'd really like to talk to them. And if you're not already in my big family moms Facebook community, feel free to jump in and connect with other moms, even locally. If you want to be where are my moms in Utah? Where are all the moms in Canada or the UK? Because already other moms are finding each other, and it's great to find support and ask questions from people who's living a very similar life, who can relate to you and even can give you some great insider tips on how to do it. So take off the yoke of comparison, because really, who put it there, right? Maybe the door was open the whole time. And then connect with other moms who can relate to your specific situation and give you some good advice. And then, last thing I'll say is this: eat the chicken and spit out the bones, right? big family moms, we love giving advice, especially some of us more than others. And you're not obliged by it. This isn't the word of God. It's just practical advice. You could test it out, even test out my own advice that I share for free or in my course or wherever. And if it's a good fit for you, awesome. If it blesses you, it serves you, great. If not, no biggie. Cast it off and then move on to find ways to hit your goals based in your values that God has called you to do in this season for such a time as this that works for you. So I hope that this has helped you. I had so much to share and answer this question. I still could keep going, but I'm going to cap it off here at 15 minutes. So God bless you. If you want to chat more about this, or feel free to connect more in the group, I'd love to do that there. Otherwise, God bless you. Have a great day. I'm going to go enjoy the rest of quiet time. I have portioned out in my schedule. I'm going to enjoy it very much. I'll see you later in the group.